Hello, hello, hello. I am your host, Tracy Otsuka. Thank you so much for joining me here for another episode of ADHD for Smartass Women. You know that my purpose is always to show you who you are and then inspire you to be it. And in the thousands of ADHD women that I've had the privilege of meeting, I've never met a one that wasn't truly brilliant at something, not one. So, of course, I am just delighted to introduce you today to Michelle Harris. Michelle Harris is a leader in the destination wedding photography industry. Her expertise in posing has led to features in industry publications such as Martha Stewart Weddings, Luxury Wedding Magazine, and People Magazine, to name a few. Michelle loves inspiring photographers worldwide to build successful six-figure businesses. She teaches smart marketing and advanced photography techniques, helping them grow without the stress and burnout of that constant hustle. Living with ADHD, Michelle teaches classes that are streamlined for easy focus under pressure. She is also the proud mother of two tween daughters and a 5-pound Yorkie, and is joining us from Atlanta, where she literally just moved 2 weeks ago. Did I get all of that right? And welcome,
Sure
Michelle.
did. You sure did. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. So, before we talk about what it is that you actually do, can we talk about your ADHD diagnosis first?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, so I would love to know, like, what were the circumstances around it? Are you one of the mommy factor diagnoses where your daughter was diagnosed first, or were you diagnosed early in life? What's the story?
So the story is, I actually was diagnosed only 3 years ago, and it's because of COVID. Because I've realized that prior to then, I was so organized and structured, and everybody had a schedule, and everything had to be done at a certain time that I didn't really even notice what couldn't get done when I had all the time and no one had to be anywhere because there was nowhere to go. And then all of a sudden, I'm trying to get back into doing some work, and I have all this time and I have these lists, and it's like normal. I should be able to do all these things. I'm like, and I'm getting like half of 7 things down on my list instead of getting 3 completed. On the list. So I realized I was all over the place and started talking to friends and finally figured out this is definitely what my problem is.
So, are you one of the women who you were on Instagram and TikTok and you started to hear people talk about it? Or in the back of your mind, had you ever thought, maybe some of the things that I do struggle with are ADHD, or did it never cross your mind?
So it actually never really crossed my mind, especially as an adult. Once it started to come in, when I'm like, okay, this is really, I think, what's happening, I started looking back like on my past. And I remember when I was a child and some of my teachers would like mention things to my mom, but I was adopted. So my mom just, to her, I was perfect. So there was no wrong. There was nothing like, no, my daughter's not this and not that. But like, also just like in the Black community 30 years ago, because I'm about to be 35, it was really, 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 really taboo. So it was like, oh, your kid takes Ritalin or something like that. Like, it's like, oh, what's wrong with it? It's like close to being like diagnosed with schizophrenia back then. So like, it's ridiculous how they used to look at it. But because of that, my mom would just fight through it with me. And so when I look back, I'm like, you know what? That's probably exactly what my issues were as I was going through school, but we just kind of just kept pressing through it.
So, how did you do in school?
So, I mean, I did okay. I was never like, a straight A student, but I never had like Fs. I was always B and C. I found it very difficult in high school to balance all the different subjects and the different days where I had this and I had that. But that's really where, when I look back, I'm like, that makes sense as to why I felt so overwhelmed. And then I did only about a year of college, mainly because I didn't know what I was doing. And I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, like I thought I wanted to be a fashion designer at some point. But I went to VCU for a year, and at that school, you have to just go to art school like for 2 years and then apply to be in the designer program. And so like when I got there and there was all these new things and all these new people and all the subjects, everything that was in high school, but I had the freedom, I was all over the place. So when I look back, I'm like, that college was just too much for me. That's what I just kept telling everyone and everything. Like, yeah, it was just too much. It was just overwhelming, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I didn't want to waste any more money. and then I ended up just building my business and not looking back or needing to a
So,
degree anyway.
so I'm curious because of these minor struggles that you had in elementary school and high school, but more substantial struggles that you had in college, did you think, I must just not be very smart? Or did you always know you're smart and this just isn't for me?
Right. I was like, you know what? I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, so I'm not going to try to push myself through this. I've learned that as long as I know, like, this is what I want to do, even if it's not the right thing, I'm going to push myself through it and focus, and whatever I have to do, I'm going to do it. But as soon as I was like, I don't know, why am I here? I'm not about to put all the energy into this. So it was like somewhere in the middle, basically.
Were you always entrepreneurial?
I was. I knew that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I didn't know how. When I was like really young and getting out of college, trying to figure out what I was going to do, I started like MLM types of things. I knew that like I'd like to talk to people and help people in some way, but I didn't know how. And I didn't know how until I decided I thought I just wanted, something to do on the side because I was an insurance agent, and that just took over my whole life, and now it's definitely not a side hustle for sure.
Did you like insurance or was it more just, oh, it's a way to make money and I'm actually pretty good at it?
It was I just had a baby and they have a job opening, so I'll go with this. But like when I look back at working there, I don't regret my time there because I started as a an auto insurance. Because one, I know the ins and outs of auto insurance policies, which is never a bad thing to know. And then I moved into the
Yeah.
internet department, so I had to respond to people wanting things done via email, and so I had to write proper emails. And back in like high school at that point, that was the last time I had to worry about all the exact proper grammar and things. But like going through that right before like I eventually left, I was like, okay, now I know exactly when to write this and where to put this comma and that type of thing. So I have no regrets of that time period.
Yeah, I always say that that's probably, in some cases, the only important skill that we learn in education, right? Because if you don't know how to write an email, I don't care how brilliant you are, it's really hard to come across as professional. So, yeah,
Extremely.
that's what
And
I told my son.
not
If
as
you
a
do
scammer.
nothing with college, but you get out and you're a strong writer, that's a big win.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, did you always feel different from other people?
I did. I did always feel like you want to work for this company and to be told what to do. Like, and I always thought it was funny. Like, and my mom, she passed away a couple of years ago, but like she was in the military, and I always looked at her like, you let these people tell you where we can live and where we can go and when you got to be like. I'm never gonna do that. Like, so I always knew I was gonna be a little different, do different things than your average and what you're supposed to do as children being brought up.
Yeah. Are you an only child?
Well, yeah, because I was adopted. I grew up as only child, but technically I have 9 brothers and sisters.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
It's a lot, but yeah, I grew up as an only child.
Okay. Um, the question that I wanted to ask you about going back to entrepreneurialism, when you were young, when you were like 6, 7, 8, beyond that, let me tell you why I'm asking this question. So first of all, the question is, did you have entrepreneurial like tendencies? Were you one of those kids that was always kind of trying to figure out how to make a dime? And, did you start little businesses on the side and that kind of thing?
Absolutely. So I was one of the people who would beg my mom to buy like a big pack of like snacks, like a assortment pack of potato chips type of thing, and then I would bring them to school because I knew what they sold for in the vending in the vending machine, but that way I could charge less and they could get more. So it was like 75 cents for a bag of chips, and I'd be like, I'll give you two for $1. They're like, what? Okay. So like, yes, I was always doing something to get a little bit of change. I am also 5'10". So people assumed that like, oh, well, you must play basketball or you're gonna be in track and all of that. And I like, specifically because they felt like I was supposed to do it, I didn't want to do it. So I also was like, no, no, I sure didn't know. Oh, did you model? Nope, nope, none of those things. I joined the co-op program, and for my senior year, I was able to just leave school at like 12 o'clock, and then went to work my job, and just was making money. Like that's what I wanted to do, and I didn't care what people thought I should do or could be good at. I did what I wanted to do.
So the reason I asked that is I just finished a book. 10x is better than 2x. I don't know if you've
I've heard
heard
of
of
it
it.
before.
Yeah. And one of the things that the author was saying, and I believe he said there are studies around this, is that for people with that, I want to say entrepreneurial gene, it literally starts showing itself like at 7, 8, 9 years old. These are the kinds of kids who are constantly figuring out, okay, how can I re-engineer this to create a little business out of it, or like you said, make a buck out of it. And, the more people I ask this, the more I realize that, yeah, I think that really is true. It shows up really young in life. These kids they're different.
Absolutely. And I mean, even like my two girls, so one is 10 and one just turned 13. And when I tell you they're so vastly different, it's not even funny. Like my youngest would be like, what can I do so I can make $10? Can I organize this? Can I do this? Can I do that? And like she'll just do whatever is necessary so she can get the money she needs so she can go do whatever she wants to go do. My older one, we'll just be at a store and she'll be like, oh, guess I don't have $10. And I'm just like, are you my child or what? Like, where did you come from? So I do think it's
Manifest it.
where are you at? Like, I don't know. So I'm working through that. The vast differences between them.
Right. And we need all kinds of people, right? Because those of us who are entrepreneurs actually need people like the second child you mentioned to help work with us, right? Because they tend to be the ones with the more linear brains, and they're good with working for someone and working for the military and all the things that we look at and say, oh my gosh, never.
I know, and it's frustrating me, and I have to let it go because like my 13-year-old, she's just like, no, I just want to be in tech, and like maybe I could work for a company, and I'm like, what? Like, why? But like I was supposed to be supportive. I was like, okay, just get good grades and we'll get you a scholarship and do the thing. But I'm just like, this is different for me to be supportive because my youngest is like all right now. We'll see how long this lasts, but she's all about makeup and she wants to do like a YouTube channel and she wants to be an influencer and this and that. And I'm like, okay, give it just a little bit more time before we put you on the internet. But like she's full blown like I'll just go to cosmetology school and take off. And I'm like, yes, I'm with this. So I've just got to figure out how to be like, okay, yes, college, IT, okay, job, internship, with my other one.
I swear they come out the way they are. And
They
the
do.
best thing we can do for them is just help them be more of who they are, right? Even though it may be difficult because we can't relate. Michelle, I am curious, what has changed since you were diagnosed?
My ability to execute everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I just can actually finish tests as opposed to jumping to another one in the middle of one because I think that one will be faster. So let me just start that one instead. Finally, I'm able to be to get things done and not feel guilty when I'm not able to focus and things like that. Like I know who I am as a human, so I'm just like, this is just how it works. Sometimes I can't get things done the way I want to, and in the time that I think I'm going to get it done.
But is it that you're really actually slow, or is it that you do so much more than the average person and you just have no sense of time, so you don't even realize that this is ridiculous? Nobody can get all this done.
That is exactly what it is. Because to the second, I swear I think I can get something done in 30 minutes that every time takes an hour. So I've tried to like give myself like 4 times the amount of time to get something done, but I've realized that's too much because I'm like, oh, I didn't get it done. It's fine. I still have 30 minutes at the end, but like I think 3 times the amount of time I think it'll take is a sweet spot for me right now.
And is it always that things take longer than you think they do, or is it more that you have no idea how long things take, and so some things you'll think, oh, that'll take an hour, and you get it done in 10 minutes, and other things you think it'll be an hour and it takes three?
It's a mixture of both because it's like things that
Yeah.
I've done that I'm like, I know exactly how long this take. It should take this long. It doesn't. And the other alternative is just like I can't. I haven't gotten it right yet.
Yeah. So, the fact that you now understand so much more about how your brain works and that you are able to now get things done, are you one of the lucky ones where medication actually works for you?
It is. Yes. And I tried so many different kinds because people just have this huge like stigma about just Adderall. And so they're like, oh, well, why don't you try this? And why don't you try that? And I did, but Adderall works for me.
Ah,
It just is what it is. I've tried the different kinds and like finally got to the point where I have to have like an extended release one and another pill in case I need it, a little extra boost in the day. But I don't have to take that every day. But it works beautifully for me, and I can't miss a day without it.
so can I ask, were you an entrepreneur before you were diagnosed?
Oh yeah, yeah, because I have been doing this for it'll be 10 years in January 2025. So and I just got diagnosed 3 years ago. So yeah, I was doing it, but I'm telling you, it's because I had so much going on between the kids and their schedule and where I had to be and what I had to do that I didn't really notice because I had only a short amount of time to get things done. So of course I got it done during that time because that's all I had. But once it opened up, and then when I wanted to ease back into work, and even after everything got back to like normal speed, I still didn't want to go to that speed. That's when I'm like, okay, wait, I've got to figure out why and how I'm not working the way that I used to.
Are you really vocal about your ADHD? I mean, you mentioned that, in the Black community, certainly like taking this medication and even believing, is there really such a thing as ADHD? Can be a struggle. And so I'm curious, are you really vocal now about, this is what ADHD looks like? And I'm sure it's because, like everyone, we're not educated, right, around what ADHD looks like. So if you think that it's all weaknesses and it means that you're a loser, yeah, who the hell would want it? I'd run too. But once you understand that there's this balance of, yeah, some things you struggle with, but there's so many strengths, then it's almost like, oh, well, now that makes sense. Now I want to have ADHD, right? Because it makes me like I now understand how my brain works.
Absolutely. So, I mean, when I was going through that process of figuring out what was going on, I was very vocal, like on my Facebook more than like my actual Instagram on like my business side, because I didn't want my clients to like worry that I wasn't able to do the things I could normally
Yeah.
do. But like on my Facebook, I would like post things and I'd be like, I'm trying this out. I figured this out. I first started with Ritalin and then I was like, it's okay. Like, can I try something else? And I tried Adderall and it was working great. But then people were like, oh, you have to try Vyvanse because that's not addictive. And I'm like, well, I'm not addicted to this. What? Like, if I'm not addicted, why are you bothered? Like, there's like
Yeah.
so many like stigmas with stuff like that. But that made me like once I figured it out, I stopped really talking about it. And that's because every time I would get that, well, why don't you just change your diet? If you just do exercise or if you just
Yeah.
meditate, this and that. And it's like, yeah, I exercise, I meditate, I still need
Yeah.
Adderall. And you're not going to make me
Yeah.
feel bad about it. So I just don't say nothing at all.
Did it really make a difference in your business
It did. It absolutely
being
did.
diagnosed?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely made a huge difference with my level of focus and having the motivation to do the things. It definitely transformed things for me.
So, how did you get into wedding photography?
So, like I said, I was a insurance agent, and I was like, oh, I want to do something on the side. Let me get a little camera, and I'll probably be a newborn photographer because I know that I'm not going to have any more kids. And so I bought all the things that a newborn photographer buys, which a big old bean bag and all the little like headpieces and all the things. I had everything to become a newborn photographer. And I absolutely hated it with everything in my body. And so I sold everything. And then one of my brothers asked me if I could shoot his backyard wedding. And I was like, sure. And so I did it. And I was like, I love this. And so I just started like tagging along with some photographers to see like, do I really like weddings the way that I thought I did? And I fell in love and I just took off and never looked back.
How did you learn photography? I mean, have you always just had this incredible aptitude for it?
I
Because
no,
I could
nope.
want to be a photographer, but I would suck.
No, see, and most photographers are like, oh, I've always loved it since I was a kid and this and that. And I used to do film. And I'm like, I didn't do any of that. I was 25 and I was like, hey, I want to make some extra money. And then it just turned into everything that it is today. Like, I taught myself. There was a lot of online classes that I took, a lot of online classes that I took. And I couldn't find someone who directly like looked like me to teach me wedding photography. So I knew that as soon as I could get to the point where I could teach anyone anything, I didn't have to be an expert in
Yeah.
everything, but anything, I was going to start teaching. So just 3 years in, I was already having like little mini like posing workshops and things like that. And it just developed into a full thing where I'm a whole ambassador and I speak at conferences all over the place. So it has
So I'm
snowballed for sure.
so I'm really curious because this is hard. And I know this because I've bought all the equipment and certainly because, we do this online thing, we want to know how to do it more than just kind of showing up here like on Riverside. But I'm telling you it is hard. Like the white balance, the f-stop, the this, like I too have taken classes and I too have tried to learn this. And finally I just looked at this camera that I had and I told my son, "Here, you take it." How did you how did you teach yourself this and know this? There must be something about your brain that this was just natural for you.
I am realizing that these things did come a little easier to me than other people. And because of that, like I don't teach, like if someone's brand new, I don't teach people like, oh, how to use your camera, how to do your settings. Like I know how to do it and I could do it for you. I could move it, but I'm not that great at being like, oh, well, you just have to change this and do that. And then this will work. Like, nope. I teach like posing and actual like real life things and how to like navigate through the wedding day, but like the actual mechanics of the, not my thing in any way, shape, or form. So I don't really know. I learned and took off. I wish I had a
So
better
that's
answer.
amazing to me. So you must just have this incredible eye, and I know you do because I've seen your photographs. I mean, they're freaking
Yeah.
gorgeous. It
Thank
just
you.
comes naturally to you, and it always has, is what it sounds like. And so that is not what you teach because that's not your thing. What you teach are the things that you enjoy doing, which is
Right.
so
Absolutely.
ADHD.
Yeah. That's
I
exactly
love
right.
that. I love that. Um, so we met through, I'm assuming, is he your speaking coach too, Mike Pacquione?
Yes, yes.
What's so interesting is when he introduced me to you, he told me that you have all of these speeches. And I remember, which again sounds so ADHD, because when I first met him, I was like, no, I don't want one speech. I want like 10. I want a different
Hmm.
one every time. And he's like, well, you really always kind of come back to that first one. It's that signature speech. And I've had people who literally have given that speech for 10 years, their signature speech. And I'm thinking, oh my God, that is so boring. You can't do that. And so then when I saw, when he introduced me to you and I saw all of these speeches that you do, it just made me laugh because that is so ADHD. So how did you develop all these speeches? And is it that every time you go to speak, you develop a new speech?
Okay, so when it comes down to actually like doing like a keynote where it's not so much about how to shoot weddings, more like how to persevere through different adversities and things like that, that I have like two. That's that. But when it comes to like actually shooting different things, I have different different pieces of the wedding day that I teach. So it's like, oh, okay, I have a class that is just about the getting ready portion of the day. And then I have one that's just about the first look, just about this. And then like I have little acronyms for each one. So like it's kind of developed into having a whole bunch, but technically it's like the same thing. It's just it's just different parts of the day. But he did make me like narrow down when it comes to just like keynote motivational type of things. He did. He was like, yeah, we're gonna bring this down to just these.
Yeah, exactly. How has ADHD influenced your approach to photography and actually teaching photography, do you think?
Yeah,
Because I'm
so I mean,
assuming
I've
a lot of your students probably have ADHD.
I would say a solid amount of them, especially when it comes to the mentoring, like because I do like a hybrid type of mentoring where it's like mostly virtual, and then there's like one meeting a month type of thing, and I have learned that that helps. No matter what they have going on, they're able to balance that out, whether they have ADHD or not. But like actually working one on, I can't even say one on one, but like in a group with people, I've noticed that some can pay attention longer and some can't. And more often than not, there are more ADHD students in my class than not. So absolutely. But how did I get to the point where I teach them? That was the original question.
So how do you think your ADHD has influenced how you actually teach photography?
How I teach. So I know that I and most of us do not have a long attention span. So I'm not one to introduce myself for 10 minutes. Even if I have an hour and a half class, I'm not going to do it. I give them some like really powerful information up front, and then I might come back and be like, oh, like this is how I got to that point, like a little bit of my story, and then give them some information, and then that's it. I just give it straight information so that they can receive it and go about their day.
Right?
Simplify, get straight
Yeah.
to the point.
And I think that is probably one of our biggest strengths because we need to do that for our brains, right? We want the big picture. Okay, what are you going to teach me like in, 2 lines that I'm going to take away from today because I think that's when people feel successful, right? Not when you throw a bunch of information at them and they leave and it's like, oh my God, she's so smart. She knows so much, but I don't know what the hell to do with any of that.
Exactly. Like I don't want people to leave my classes with a whole bunch of notes, like paper and paper and paper. Like no, like what I teach you, you should have in your brain because like I said, I make a lot of acronyms for different things so that they leave and like, oh, that acronym is really, really helpful. They didn't have to write it down, or maybe they have to write just that down, but that's it.
Yeah.
Because whatever else I taught was just like straight to the point. Okay, I can go take this acronym and apply this to this part of the wedding, and I'm good.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give to other women with ADHD who are looking to either grow their business or start a new business, um, particularly in a creative field like photography?
I have found that the most powerful like hack for me, because it doesn't matter what creative business you're trying to create, is when you write down like a to-do list, because we're naturally going to write down things we got to do. Not only just write them down, but also prioritize them and don't allow yourself to skip and move around. So if you write, okay, I have to do this first through number 5, you can't be on number 1 and say, okay, but if I do number 3, it'll be faster than if I do number 2. Like if you wrote the priority list, don't allow anything to change that, and that will make you the most successful.
Anything else?
I mean, I don't even know if this has anything to do necessarily with ADHD, but don't allow anyone to discourage you from anything that you set on doing. And if you're on your way to doing it and you hear someone have something negative to say, don't speak to them until it's over, like until it's done. Whatever you're doing has been completed. It doesn't have to be like, block them or whatever, but the people around you matter, especially when it comes to like even focusing and that types of thing. So like if you can find people who are doing the same thing that have a positive outlook on things, surround yourself with those people, even if that means you silently go co-work with those people. That has been extremely helpful, like body doubling with people. Like I have a little like I have a community of photographers. We'll just come in and on Zoom and just work. If someone has a question, you have a question, but like that really is really really helpful, finding a community of people who are doing the same thing with a positive outlook on what you're doing.
What are the ADHD traits that you feel are responsible for your success?
Um, I really think that the ability to hyper focus when I decide on something is it for me. Because if I bounced around and just la da 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 things, like I wouldn't be where I'm at. So I set the time, I set the priorities, and I hit the ground running. So I'm actually grateful for that part of it.
Do you have a number one ADHD workaround?
Well, I just gave it to you with my prioritization, is like that's the number one thing for me, because if I do not follow that list in order, you can cancel Christmas. I'm not gonna complete the things. So that's the way that I work around what I have to do.
So,
And I do kind of do things last minute on purpose sometimes, things that I know that I have to do, because when I do it last minute, I get it done and I get it done well and really fast. So I think that's kind of like a toxic ADHD thing to do to myself, but it works.
negative self care is what we call it.
Okay, okay. Yep, that. Yep.
Okay, so I'm curious, on your priority list, is that something you do once a week, like on a Sunday to prepare for the week? Is it something you do every morning? Is it something that you do a couple times a day? Like, how do you handle that priority list?
So on Sundays, I write a long list of everything with no numbers. And then I split it out between the days. And then once I've split things up between the days, then I prioritize the days. And that's it. I can't go back and say, yeah, on Sunday I thought I was going to do three at three, but I'd like to do it one now. No, like if I put it three on Sunday, it's still three. Like unless something, dramatically changed and someone needs something
Right.
sooner than I thought, things like that. But in general, I know myself and I will try to skip something, something that I think will, like, well, if I just do four, at least I can cross it off. Like, no,
Yeah.
you need to do one, two, three first. So that's how I like
And
split
so,
it up and then prioritize.
are you the kind of person that has to do a bunch of easy things first, like every morning, and then that'll lead to the big thing? Or can you jump right into the big thing?
So I have taught myself to jump into the big thing so that everything else feels easier. And
Okay.
I have a quote that I look at all the time that's just like, the success that you're wanting is on the other side of the things that you don't want to do. So I
Yeah.
just remind myself, like, okay, but if I don't want to do this one first, but if I do it, I'll be successful. The rest of the day will flow and be easy because I already know these are easy. That's why you want to do it first. And I also know I'm a morning person. So I need to do the most like mentally strenuous type of thing as early as possible so that later on, when I'm not really feeling like doing it, at least I'm doing the easier task.
So it sounds like what you've done is you have connected the discomfort with, if I just walk through it and I get to the other side, I know I'm going to feel so much better because I've done it over and over again. So you've built that neural pathway in your brain.
Absolutely. Now, if I could also do that with working out, it'd
Yeah.
be so much better.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten there yet. I still kind of like, oh, just start off walking. Like, but I'm still able to do something. But I'm like, how come I
Hey,
can't train my brain to think
walking
that
is
way?
great. If we all walked more, right, we'd be a lot better.
It's true,
Michelle,
but
are
I
you
also
working
have
on
a health.
something that you want to tell us about?
Oh,
Yeah.
so sorry, the number one thing that I am working on right now is my book Brides Boot Camp. And that's my mentoring where I do parts of it virtual and then some in person. And but that's launching July 10th. So I'm working on that, and it's
Okay.
going to be like a 6-month program. But I'm also just working on doing everything in Atlanta for anybody. So because I just moved here, I'm like, hey, does anybody need headshots? Does anybody need family photos? Does anybody? Because I can do all the things. I just, I specialize in weddings, but I can do that. I do boudoir. So I'm just kind of just getting my feel for Atlanta. So those are the two things I'm really focused on at this time.
So how do they find you if they're
So
interested in working with you in any capacity?
the absolute best place to find me all the time, no matter what you need, is Instagram. Harris_studios is my Instagram.
M
Studios.
Harris underscore
Sorry.
studios. Wonderful. Michelle, thank you so much for spending time. And I'm going to put that in the show notes, by the way. So if anybody's listening and they didn't get it, well, let me say it one more time. M Harris underscore studios. It will also be in our show notes. Michelle, thank you so much for spending time with us here today. I really appreciated speaking with you.
It was amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. My pleasure. So that's what I have for you for this week. If you like this episode with Michelle, please let us know by leaving a review. Our goal is to change the conversation around ADHD, helping as many women as we possibly can learn how their ADHD brains work so that they too may discover their amazing strengths. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you here next week.